Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to be diving into something incredibly profound, gaining a truly different perspective on how we navigate sudden life changes, untangle the difference between pain and suffering, and honestly, learn how to hold multiple truths at once. So, let's just jump right into this deep and really necessary work. What actually happens when life changes without any warning at all? I mean, really, take a second to just sit with that. Imagine waking up only to find that the absolute anchor of your life is just gone. And suddenly you have to figure out how to live in a reality you simply did not choose. It's a heavy one, right? But this question is the starting line for real emotional growth. If you've been plugged into any mental health conversations lately, you know it's absolutely crucial to get past that surface level advice. We need the real stuff. This isn't about someone telling you to magically get over painful events. It's about tackling this exact terrifying situation head on. Because how will you learn to live with sudden loss? How do you rebuild a shattered identity? And how on earth do you create meaning out of a situation you definitely didn't ask for?
Okay, let's dive into this. How do we even begin to process those kinds of unexpected realities? Well, it all starts with a foundational philosophy, which is the concept of the specialized lens. This is basically the belief that our understanding of life is entirely shaped by our individual experiences, meaning two people can literally look at the exact same event and see it in completely different ways. Your family background, your unique traumas, your faith, your core values, they all fuse together to form a highly specialized lens. Like, think about it. If you and a sibling both experience a parent's illness, one of you might see it as this unfair tragedy, while the other sees it as a call to step up. Same exact event, totally different lenses. And the goal here isn't to force everyone to agree. Actually, scratch that. It's more about slowing down, actually listening, and realizing that the person right next to you has a valid, yet completely different emotional roadmap.
And this specialized lens really expands how we understand a very heavy word, grief. We usually associate grief strictly with losing a loved one, to death. But this framework completely validates the profound reality of non-death grief. We're talking about mourning a vanished career, a shattered friendship, or a missed opportunity. And here's a massive one: mourning a former version of yourself. Have you ever grieved the future you totally thought you were going to have? Acknowledging that these unexpected phases of grief require just as much processing and healing as any physical loss is, honestly, a real game changer. It gives people permission to finally heal. So this brings us to a really fascinating dichotomy, the stark difference between pain and suffering. Pain is the unavoidable storm. It's the sudden loss, the rejection, or the shocking life changes that you simply cannot control. But suffering, well, that is largely controllable. It's the compass you hold in the aftermath. It's determined entirely by how we process those painful experiences, the meaning we attach to them, and the choices we make once the dust settles. Now, this isn't about blaming anyone for hurting, no way. It's about empowering you. It's about helping you recognize exactly where you still hold the cards. You can't stop the pain from showing up at your front door, but you absolutely get a say in whether you let it trap you emotionally.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is that building right on top of that personal power requires a crucial balance. Basically, true growth requires both compassion for your pain and strict accountability for your choices. It is a necessary, balanced, tough love. Yes, trauma and pain absolutely explain certain behaviors or setbacks, but, and this is key, they never excuse harmful decisions. They never excuse a refusal to grow. Honest self-examination is literally the only way to create real change. You have to be willing to look in the mirror and own your patterns. Compassion and accountability are not enemies here, guys. If you genuinely want to rebuild your identity and move forward, they absolutely have to go hand in hand.
And this tough love dynamic is brought to life flawlessly by the hosts of this platform, Mary and Fleek. Their chemistry is basically the engine driving this entire philosophy. You have Mary, who anchors the space with profound emotional honesty and vulnerability. She creates this deeply personal, safe environment to just dig into grief and identity transitions. Then you have Fleek. He's incredibly curious, highly thoughtful, and very, very direct. He's the one bringing that accountability we just talked about, always examining situations from every possible angle. Mary's profound vulnerability balances flawlessly with Fleek's thoughtful questioning, and because of this engine, their conversations never ever just skim the surface. So how does that engine actually work when the mics are on? Well, instead of some stiff, rehearsed Q&A, they guide their guests through a completely natural, unscripted progression. They start with the raw facts of what actually happened during an experience, but they don't stay there for long. They immediately pivot into the deep emotional effect it had on the person. From there, they push right into self-awareness, asking the really hard question: what did you actually learn about yourself in all that darkness? And finally, they land on action. Like, what boundaries did you have to create to start healing?
It is a brilliant structure because it gently forces guests away from those rehearsed talking points and pulls them into raw, unpolished, and just deeply helpful honesty.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you walk people through that kind of progression. A remarkable breakthrough happens. They discover the freeing power of holding multiple truths. You realize you can be incredibly strong, yet desperately need support. You can love someone deeply, yet require strict boundaries to protect your own peace. You can be actively healing, doing all the right work, and still have really, really hard days. This isn't about pushing some unrealistic toxic positivity on you, not at all. It's about championing the contradictions. It reminds us that healing is not a straight line. It's messy, and it is completely okay to hold multiple conflicting truths in your heart at the exact same time. And this vision goes far beyond just recording audio and tossing it into the void. They're actively expanding into a living, breathing community centered entirely on authentic connection and healthy storytelling. We're talking about facilitating live audience conversations, hosting deep-dive educational workshops, forming real partnerships in the mental health space, and prioritizing listener-submitted stories. What we are watching unfold is a rapidly growing platform where people don't just show up to consume content, they show up to connect, to reflect on their own pain and suffering, and to actually undergo genuine personal transformation.
Ultimately, everything we've covered in this explainer boils down to this. Every single person has a story. Every experience teaches something, and every situation can look entirely different when viewed through another person's lens. It sounds simple, but living it out, that is profound work. When we swap out our knee-jerk defensiveness for empathetic listening, we unlock incredible personal growth. So I'm going to leave you with a final provocative challenge today. If you looked at your most difficult life experience through the specialized lens of someone else, maybe a friend, maybe the person who hurt you, or even just a neutral observer, what unexpected truth might you discover about yourself? Embrace the power of a different perspective today. Because the answers you find might literally be the exact boundaries or the exact healing you have been searching for.